a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting in July, or need to be refreshed?
There was one correction, evidently it was taken down wrong, but I had made the correction from the previous meeting and the correction wasn't correct, but I'm fine with it. I mean, it was just saying that it wasn't the cadget, it was the levy freeze, but it didn't say levy freeze, but that's fine.
So you're good with it then?
Yeah,
as is?
I can, if I get that worried about it.
Immaterial.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay. Motion to accept minutes then,
So moved.
second,
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Auditor's report, Beth?
Barry said,
Anything you need to say or ask?
no.
I guess I got a question for this board though. Do we really need 602,000 in 4501, according to what I was reading? Is that what?
No, you
No,
only have
that's a
109,000.
Here.
Oh, that's paper, oh, okay.
That's the total.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. Forget my question then. Motion to approve. Any other questions? Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Report accepted. Claims. We have one claim from Baker Tilly Municipals for $800. And it's for the professional services rendered for, the bond from 2014 and 2015.
Motion to approve claim 173 for $800.
Second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 104.21, first of all, the culvert out there that Ism did a rock on and everything, and he was supposed to do some cementing, hasn't been done. Bonnie has talked to Ism, Brian got an email from Ism saying he would be there within the next 3 weeks to get that taken care of, and it would be like a super highway, is that what he said, or something like that?
He said, been busy, but he's glad to get to it around 3 weeks. He said, thanks for your patience, I will make it worth the wait, it will look like a slope wall when I'm done.
Another question that Brian had brought up is, do we want to do an open contract with HWC? Or do we want to do contract by project? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, well, so right now, I don't have any kind of contract with you guys. I mean, you always tease me about having an invoice, but I don't have a contract with Bill with you guys. Pretty much have been doing everything, just open, trying to help move projects along. The one project that's coming up is if, because we've talked to NDOT, and I talked to Alan Holdery this morning, at NDOT about widening, I think you've all seen this, copies, we've got extra copies here. But he's talked about if the county would widen and build up the roadway on 421, when they come back and pave it, they would do the restriping and everything like that, but they would prefer the county, because anytime they disturb any soil, they have to do a lot more environmental than if you guys did it local. So the thought was is maybe we try and develop it, the project the way we want to see it developed more than the way they want to do the minimum, such as doing additional turn lane or widening on the east side up to the Hoosier Heartland, where the
access ramps are. So my thought was, is if we started working on that, and we would have a mechanism to bill you guys for the work we do as we develop that.
So it would be a contract for hourly or?
Hourly, yeah, probably an hourly. And I don't know what it would be, I was gonna say hourly, not to exceed $20,000, just until we figure out what's gonna go on, what they need, but that's up to you guys.
And there's a lot of that work kind of preliminarily done.
We've done
On
a
a
lot.
shelf somewhere.
Well, yeah, we've developed a lot of different plans for
Yeah.
looking at that. One was when it was gonna go into IPC was gonna have a separate entrance into it. That's kind of off the shelf, but I think we need to kind of keep that in the back of our mind. Also, based on the new traffic counts and what they're wanting, what they're seeing proposed, kind of develop, put it all together, basically, move it all forward. Get within our two zones, so they don't take a few years to kind of grasp what they really want to have happen.
So one question I have is, we talked about this previously, about making the right-hand turn lane all the way from Packers, all the way to the interstate. So that someone could come out of Packers, turn right, go all the way to the interstate, never have to stop. So, and there's only probably a 30-yard, maybe 50 yards there that's not currently paved. But it's either shoulder or turn lanes or a combination of them for that stretch. So can we run, does it have to have a shoulder, I guess is my bottom question? Or can the lane be the edge of the road?
They'll probably want at least a 2-foot shoulder on there, or some type of shoulder on the turn lane. When I talked to Alan this morning, he said he didn't anticipate having 4 lanes all the way between 100 and the streets, or 3 lanes even. There's 2 lanes to become a full turn lane. But, I mean, the more you look at it, it pretty much means a turn lane all the way. So that's one of the things I think we really want. That's what I've shown this. We did this, gosh, I think back in 2015 or so.
Yes.
This was a long time ago, but that was kind of, I think what you're talking about, Josh. An extra turn lane on one side.
I guess first thing I would like to discuss is, do we want to go ahead and do a contract with an hourly rate on it with HWC?
We need to spell out the scope of work or what we're looking for.
I can't answer that.
We can do a specific task if you want. A lot of times we have open contracts with municipalities where we just serve as engineer, and it's like, I need you to figure out lights for out there, I need you to figure out the culvert or look at something like that. So we have that in place in certain places, but then each additional task will give an opportunity. It's how we want to do it.
If you probably had 4 or 5 projects through the year, might be a smart thing to do, but then also, I know we're asking Brian to do some things before we even decide to do a project. To me, I guess I'm looking at it that way, that it would be nice to go ahead and put them on an open contract and pay by the hour. And whenever we want something done, we discuss it at the meeting here before we contact Brian on specifically what we want him to do.
I haven't done too much, we've completed projects, but I haven't tried to nickel and dime.
I mean, do we have ODOT's blessing to go down this path? Are they on board?
When I talked to him this morning, Alan said that he would prefer that. They're not going to let their paving project until December 2021. So they probably wouldn't start any work until 22. So we're talking 2.5 to 3 years before they even do anything.
And what is their paving project?
It's just resurfacing.
All of, from where to where, or all?
I don't it covers that area, but I don't know how far south they go. I think it's where they
Left off, where did they stop when they get to the city? The bridge over Ridge
Yeah.
Creek,
the
right by the
bridge.
Methodist Church.
So I think it picks up there and then it goes down to the border. I don't know how far.
So they would fund some portion of that.
They would fund resurfacing existing. They would,
But if you add a lane, you've got the additional expense.
and I think his point was when they get into that, adding, when they dig up, they do a full pavement section, then they get into a bunch more environmental stuff. Much more, if they have to buy right away, it just creates a much more problems with them. How they-
I can't imagine we would have to buy right away, right? I mean, it's,
There may be some.
We might have
But,
to.
I mean, if the expense is theirs versus ours, I guess I don't care what kind of problems they get into. But would they do it in the fashion that we deem it, that we would like it done? That's the question. Who's controlling the scope of the project? Well, I don't know that we're really on a tight time frame. I mean, obviously, we're not, because we started this discussion in 2015. But, you know, I guess the question is, if we let them do it, are they gonna do it right?
I think they'll do the bare minimum.
So they probably won't change anything other than maybe line it differently, or who knows?
I don't know, I can't answer.
And they won't say until they do another study, and then once they've done their study, they'll see what it's gonna be. Yeah.
And we would build it, I don't know whether the county has different specs than the state, but we build it according to the state specs. We built it.
But, I mean,
When-
is there some risk that,
When,
like,
when we met with them,
Yeah.
when we met with NDOT, and I forgive
Yeah,
John.
Josh, and
Okay. When we met with them initially, we asked, what could, the county do to help move this, and we were talking about having a light or something, you know, a whole different gamut of things, and they said, well, writing a letter, I think was important, and putting some money towards the project. And so what they're saying now is, this would be your money towards the project.
do you have any idea what the
When we,
thumbnail sketch of costs?
I think when we did the initial, it was about $1.5 million. That was everything. So this may not be as much, I don't know. If we build
$1.5
up.
million a lot for a trip. But that would include the paving and everything, right?
Right.
So are we just building the foundation and they're paving over it, or?
They would come back and do it, yeah.
But probably not the new lane.
Yes,
They would, so we wouldn't have to fund the base and all that.
we would fund that, yeah.
Okay, yeah. They would do it
They're
all,
just doing it.
but they're only gonna probably fund the footprint of what's there today. The resurfacing cost of the footprint that is
He made it sound like that they would do the
Whole thing?
Yeah. The blanket part. And there again, money, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, that's some of the things I think we need to move forward and figure out.
I think it's definitely something that ought to be done. I can't believe that they're not more aggressive at trying to get it accomplished. It's kind of a nightmare out there. So I don't know, in regards to your question, it's like, I'd like to know what their position is, and are they committed to, funding the resurfacing, and then we can get some numbers together to see what the total project looks like.
I can give you his number if you wanna call him, or, but that's what he told me this morning. They would fund the research.
So really, wasn't this originally supposed to let in 20 and go in 21?
The research.
Yeah. Or
It made it, yeah, I think that was the case. I mean, they moved things around at NDOT, and even this morning when I talked to him on the phone, he was having a hard time finding where it was, and he was like, oh, here it is, it's scheduled for letting in December of 2021. So, I was kind of your,
even there was was a part of me that thought it was supposed to be completed in 2020, but I think it was 2020, anyway. So, yeah, it seems, I think our road's gonna last another 2 years or 3 years. It's in pretty sad shape between here and Rossville.
Okay,
Sorry.
no, that's fine. First of all, I wanna go back to, we wanna do another contract with HWC. Anybody out?
What's the alternative to that?
Either that or we call Brian up and say, hey, we're looking at this project and we'll pay you. You know, he won't be doing anything prior. We'll have to, say, hey, we're gonna do this one project, and then he'll have to get involved and take care of it. He's been doing a few little things and we haven't asked him to, basically, he's just trying to help us along. Is there an advantage to it? I don't know, I guess I look at the
Is there a
idea that
disadvantage
people
to
call
having
Brian.
an open contract? I mean, what's the disadvantage? Why would we not wanna do that?
End of 2023,
If we're not paying
Fiscal
him extra
years.
to have an open contract, then
next fiscal year beginning of 2023.
No, I'm just shaking my head. I agree, I mean,
June, July.
they've already done a lot of work out there.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like it's starting from ground zero. I mean, you know, yeah, things may get wider or longer or whatever, but it's not the beginning of this whole concept. And so I think we take advantage of the investment that's already been made, that they put into the project and continue on, but it'd be nice to have an idea to know what are we looking at in dollars, and what's the, what portion the state covering, and I know when they're looking at a project and it's that far out, things can change, but at least we have an idea. But I would say continue working towards that goal like we have been for a long time.
I would like to get a proposal together on this as soon as we can. If we show that we're making this investment, I think it's gonna incentivize the state to get up here and get this thing done. I mean, they usually go where the money is, and, who's showing
Yeah.
resolve to get these things done. So, I would be in favor of retaining HWC to get that plant together as soon as possible.
Is that motion done?
Yes, that's my motion. Well, my motion is we would need a proposal from you, right? For what scope of the work would
Right,
be.
I think the thought was just get a contract with Howard, not to exceed $20,000.
My concern about doing an open-end contract is precedent, so if we're saying, we're just gonna have an open obligation for $20,000 a year for engineering services, what are we gonna do, on other professional services for open-ended obligations? And, I mean, how do we handle our attorney's fees? Is that fixed fee, or do we do an hourly on the attorney's fees?
Hourly. On the church fees.
Right. So,
I think you go back to Josh, you can always state too, that you say, okay, we look at each project or each company, whoever we wanna do an open-end, contract with, say yes or no to it, like HCDC, I think, we work really well with HCDC, they work really well with us, so why not go ahead and, they know what's been done in the past and what we're looking at towards the future, instead of bringing somebody else in. And I guess I don't have a problem doing an open contract with one person and then making a decision on the other person where you wanna do the open contract with. I guess I sit here and I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, we gotta discuss about the lighting, we're looking at maybe widen this out here. I'm not sure where the jail's going. If the jail goes out there, what's gonna happen out there? Are they gonna, is the county gonna come back and ask for something? HWC's been involved in all this out there, so.
Yeah, we really, I mean, it's difficult to do it any other way at this stage
At this point.
of the process. I mean, once you define, yep, we're going with this, we've got a pretty good idea of what it's gonna cost based on today's costs and what have you. And then you could sign up for an X% of the contract amount or something, but until you get there, I mean, if we don't pay you by the hour, what are we gonna base your pay on? You either work or you don't work. And we set the hourly rate.
Plus we're over 5 years in, right?
I'm getting now.
Don't set the hourly rate too low or we'll bring cookies here.
I mean, it's the same as we had on our previous rate sheets. You guys know what our rates are. I can help you. Until we can figure out what exactly the town wants and what the proposal is.
Right.
And that's the whole
Exactly.
key.
Yeah.
What do they want, what do they allow, what are they gonna pay for, what are they gonna expect us to pay for?
And once we get to that, then Josh, I think then we give a defined scope and the proposal.
This would get us from where we are today to that.
Yeah.
So, I just need one point of clarification, so what you're asking for, what is on the table that we're discussing, is a $20,000 open-ended contract for professional services through HWC. There's no scope of work on that, that's just an open bucket of money to be utilized for whenever we authorize that.
Yes.
And I can provide a written pass.
Okay, I would be more comfortable with having some not to exceed for any given task without board authorization of the contract. So like if we called and said we needed something done, it was gonna be, we knew it was gonna take 4 or 5 hours, and it's $500. Not have to come to a meeting and vote and whatever. But I would say any item not to exceed $1,000 or some number
Right.
to give us the convenience of being able to have Brian do work without having, a monthly meeting cycle to contend with. So, you see where I'm coming from?
Yep, I understand.
So, but do we even need, I mean, we're not appropriating this money, so we don't really need to.
But we'll be signing, we'll be contract, we'll be signing
Why
on.
don't next meeting I bring a contract with open-ended and then a task this work will be above $1,000.
Right. Right.
It's gonna be, it's gonna be closer to 20, so let me do that, and then I think that will help kind of
Clarify.
move things forward.
Yeah.
And I'll keep pushing it, I don't think much is gonna happen in the next month, like I said, they're not gonna do paving until possibly 2022, so I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, but if we say we're gonna have this job done in the spring, it might change the calculus, or we could have this job done in the spring. I think that might change their calculus, prepaid. It could.
Yeah, it depends on how much you're gonna do.
Well,
The spring of 21,
well,
it'll take that long.
the spring.
Okay, yeah, that'll work.
That'll work for me.
So right now, you're gonna bring back the contract, talk about widening of 421, correct, at the next meeting? Is that what we're saying here? Or do you want us to go ahead and make a motion to say approval to go ahead and? Okay. Okay. Okay, lighting at 100 and 421. I think we finally got all the pieces of the puzzle put back together. IPC has agreed to go ahead and pay for the electricity on the 2 lights that we're looking at doing. Is it 2 or 3?
Well, we looked at 3.
Yeah, okay. So now then, do we wanna go ahead and give HWC, you got the approval to do it, it's just getting the contractor lined up to do it? Is that how it?
So what we need, well, all we need to do is have them contact the guy at RMC, and he can meet out there and decide on where those lights are gonna be, and the bill, we got that through IPC, it's $9.25 per light per month. There's no meter, so we just set it up, so we can coordinate that and get with the one if you'd like to be part of that, where those lights go.
They're gonna try to use existing poles?
I believe so, yes. No, they are.
Yeah.
That's the thought.
I assume.
Should,
We, like Jim, IPC to have input on what?
Nate, yeah,
I'll coordinate with IPC
John.
and I'll coordinate with our RMC on all the lights.
go ahead and move forward with that, now we're hearing from everybody.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, Brian? Haven't confused you?
The sign, the Delphi sign that we've talked about, they had somebody out there on August 2nd. It looks like they may have moved the pole, the sign maybe 3 feet, 5 feet maybe at the most, I don't know. I really thought they were gonna move it more, but it's basically in the same location. I asked Alan about that this morning, and he said, well, I passed it on to someone else with specific instructions on to move it, and this is what I got. So I have pictures that I've taken out there. If you wanna see these, they're
Sort of the before and after.
yeah. So the last, let's see, the last 2 are basically, well, the last one is where they moved it to, but,
Have you been out there lately there? It looks
Yeah,
the
but
same.
I haven't talked to anybody on the semis.
No, that's what I
Semi
meant. Have you-
drivers,
You haven't been on a tractor out there?
No,
I think all it changed was the angle of the sun.
maybe,
I think, I don't know. I think they moved it a little
They
bit.
did maybe unless the grass grew in places it wasn't before, maybe a
Yeah.
foot.
I think there's gonna be a black truck in that one night.
I was so excited when I saw the truck out there that they were actually gonna move, and I went to a different meeting, I came back, and I was like, they didn't move it.
I'll try and talk to the other
It's kinda wet right now, it's kinda dry here, and it's like,
Things
you know,
complain, the ones that
they
we
did.
complained about it before, too, if the move did help or not.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, just,
Yeah,
Because it's hard to say in a pickup or a car,
yeah, it's not much.
whether the move was enough or not, but in a semi, they're the ones that was complaining about the sign were in their way, so. Okay. Alrighty then, well, we'll see, I'll give it that, then I'll get back with you on that, Brian, after I talk to the semi drivers.
and I mentioned, like I said, I mentioned it again to Alan, and I sent him the pictures that I've shown you, and said, I don't see where you guys moved it to, but he was gonna find it.
Alright, Laura, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, I can give you a quick update. As I told you before, our region received a $100,000 grant from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation to pay for business attraction travel expenses. And so, the end of June, so I know I haven't been to as many meetings this year as I usually am, because I've been on the road a lot this year. The end of June, I was at Forbes Ag Tech in Salinas, California, and met with 8 different companies while we were out there. We got a really hot lead from a company that we met with out there, and submitted the Hoosier Heartland Industrial Park, and we've had conversations going back and forth. The ball right now is in the company's court as they're exploring which markets they want to expand into, but it is an existing company with multiple facilities around the United States that would be an interesting fit for our community. It's and obviously agriculture. We also have we also had a really hot lead from the state where I've been responding to RFIs for 13 years, and for the first time ever, a lead from the IEDC, they followed up after they sent the lead and said, hey, the site selector has already identified a site in your community, just want to make sure you saw this and that you respond to it. And so it was a pretty lengthy RFI, but we submitted the HHIP, that was the best site for their requirements. Both projects are looking at lots 1 and 2 for the dimensions. Both projects required specific lot dimensions, and so lots 1 and 2, that combination were the best for that project. We have a new request from the REMC for a solar project on their existing ground. So the design committee of the HHIP will get the application from the REMC. They have 3 different options, try to for their existing 10 acres, try to find the best spot to do a small solar project on lot 4 or lot 3. Yeah, lot 3. I'm sorry. Just more travel coming up. We're going to the largest packaging show later this month, and then the next week meeting with 20 plus site selectors in New York City with all of the utility companies around Indiana, and then have one more trade show in November, and I think I'm done with, I hope so. If you,
Spend all the money by then?
No, no, I have tried. I need to stop flying Spirits. I'm really leveraging this grant. But they're going to let us use, the initial thought was that we had to use the money in 2019, but they're now going to give us until June of 2020 to spend it. We've met our match as a region in Carroll County. We've met our match. Now, we just have to keep those expenses. They pay for everything travel related. The only thing they don't pay for is food. So it's a good thing I like Panera drive-thru, because we've been keeping it really cheap.
Okay, any other questions for Laura? Shane, you got something?
I do. So,
Shoot,
been coming
sorry I
for,
asked you.
I know. So I've been coming for 3.5 years, and I haven't officially made a formal request, and I thought September 9th, 2019 would be a good day for that. So, I'm passing out a letter here. Debbie, I've got an extra copy.
Thank you.
And this is so you can look at the paper and not at me when I'm talking.
It's on swivel.
So this is an official request from the city of Delphi for a commitment of $1 million to go towards phase 2 of the water project. I'm not expecting a vote on it tonight. I imagine it'll get tabled for a month. But really, the $1 million towards phase 2 of the project will considerably help, not just with public health, safety, and welfare, but it'll increase the economic well-being of the TIF district and the city of Delphi, and would serve to protect and increase property values within the TIF district. For a long time, we've struggled to get water up the South Hill. There's a variety of factors in that. One's our well fields on the north end of town, and then everywhere we pump it's on the south end of town. The size of the mains, which reach the south end of town, the demand of the TIF district, which is about 82%, I believe, of our annual, what we produce, is sold to the TIF district. And then the storage capacities of the system that we have. So there's been occasions in the past when Indiana Package Corporation, they've either had to halt or have been vulnerable to halting their operations because we can't get enough water up the South Hill in an efficient and quick timetable. So phase 2 of the water project includes a new transmission main. We between the well field and a new Armored Road ground storage tank, which would increase the economic well-being of the TIF district and all current and future water customers of the city of Delphi because it provides an insurance policy. We shouldn't run into instances where IPC has to halt production because we can't transmit water. We'll have a new transmission main going up there as well as the increased storage capacity should prevent that from occurring in the future. Beyond that, it increases the amount we can transmit to the South Delta, into the TIF district, which makes available more economic opportunities that we may not have gotten in the past, or were improbable in the past based on the amount of water we could send up the South Delta. Also, $1 million contribution by the RDC would decrease, it's about 5%. The decrease is what the Umbar Baker Tilly said. So instead of doing right now we're looking at 43% increase from where we are right now, it would bump it down to a 38% increase, which accounts, according to Baker Tilly, their initial analysis, would be about $4,000 a month for IPC or $48,000 annually, which is money they can put back into the TIF district. We'll also have increased storage capacity. So phase one, we're doing Carrollton Road booster tank, which is 750,000 gallons. Phase two includes the ground storage tank at Armored Road, which is 600,000 to 750,000 gallons, which would take our storage capacity from we're 1.9 million right now. It would take it up at least to 3.25 million, if not 3.4 million, which helps with fire suppression, helps ensure we have sufficient flow. Provides more economic stability for the TIF district and the city of Delphi. So I don't expect a vote tonight. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
You're in phase one now,
Correct.
and what's the anticipated completion date?
Summer of 2020 on that project. Actually, we're looking at close Carrollton Road probably Wednesday to go across the road. We've got well 7 is mostly done. We can control it manually, so if we need to use well 7, we can pump it into the system right now. We just have to do it manually. We're waiting on the rest of the system for phase 1 to get done so that we have the controls where we can just automatically turn it on, have it in rotation. I think D&T Tanks, who's the subcontractor to do the concrete ground storage tank, I think they're coming in this week or next, followed by aerators, but we're looking at, I think, spring or summer.
And what was the cost of phase one?
I believe we bonded 7.42 million. The total cost for both phases estimated at 14.5 million.
And when do you anticipate phase two starting?
Phase 2, so give you some background. The Indiana Finance Authority did grant the city of Delphi $1 million, so long as we proceed with phase 2 in the timeline that they require, which would be closing on that bond in mid-December of this year. At that point, construction could start theoretically in spring of 2020. We haven't put together a tentative schedule for that project yet. I'm not sure. We need to get the ground storage tank in the ground first before we can do maintenance on the 3 tanks that's part of that project. I don't know how the new ground storage tank timing compares with the transmission main that's going through. You've probably seen them out surveying down Prince William and Wilson Street, looking for utility conflicts for that new transmission.
How much was the grant again, Sharon?
Grant was $1 million.
But that comes in phase two, right?
Correct.
And so it has to be done, but the bonds have to be done before December of 2019.
That's the timetable on there, I guess.
To get the $1 million.
Correct. So we would close on the bond in the middle of December, which means our rate ordinance would have first reading starting in November. I think the guaranteed maximum contract has to be put together by the middle of October.
What was the projected cost of phase 2?
Yeah, or maybe 6.5 million. And a lot of the soft costs were bonded for in phase 1. So that 7.4, that's not all construction costs, the engineering, attorney, and financial analysis were all within that. For both phases, we're bonded for in phase 1.
no gut feel on when completion of phase two would be, because it's all dependent on how things flow with phase one. Is it a year job, 2 years?
It's not entirely dependent on phase one. Really, the big factor will be when we can get that ground storage tank up on our grid. Because once we get that up and running, then we can take the other 3 tanks down, and not all at the same time, but we
Yeah.
can start taking those down. And also depends on quality of soil that we have, especially north of the creek. I'm worried that when they have limestone, the plan, at least initially, is to bore as much as we can, try not to open trench, tear up the road, and have more asphalt and sidewalk costs. But we haven't got that data yet. So I, at the moment, I don't have a timeline for you on how long it will take. The tank alone, D and tanks for this project, they're coming in this week or next. They've got to be done by the end of the year, so we're looking at 4 months, 3 or 4 months, so just for completion of the tank.
So your request here is towards phase two, that's obviously gonna start sometime in next year. What would be your ideal time frame if we, you know, was favorable to this request?
Ideal timeframe would be to get a letter of financial commitment, next meeting. That way, when we go to do our rate ordinance, we have that in mind, that $1 million is coming from the RDC, we don't need to build that into our rate ordinance. And then in terms of actual disbursement of the funds, I don't really care if it's the very first million we spend or if it's the very last million we spend on the project. John Julian may be able to talk more to that.
So the letter though is important.
Yeah, some sort of statement from the redevelopment commission that you're interested in doing this and commit the funds towards this project. I wouldn't expect, disbursement of $1 million this year and nothing until construction starts.
So, this is a question for you and Brian, kind of. The commissioners, voted to put the jail by Indiana Packers. From my understanding, and I don't know if either of you know the answer to this, that, the Carroll Manor currently puts their sewage into Indiana Packers. There's some kind of arrangement there where that's how they get rid of their sewage. The engineering firm, BF&S, I believe now is BF&S.
Yeah. Craig Myers, Dick Van Sickle, and I are meeting with public government separate tomorrow to discuss utilities and through the jail.
Okay.
Beyond that, we may have had some conversations, but nothing too concrete.
So I guess my question in the long term would be, the report that was presented, I believe it was to the council, for the sewage to that facility would go, on the south side of 100 North, or is that one? Yeah, south side of 100 North, between north and south. And then go down the road and then across to the jail site. With that, or is there anything there that would be beneficial to Indiana Packers Corporation, or, with that extra sewer capacity, or is scaling of that, in the long-term interest of the RDC and the county and the city, is there any opportunities there?
That's something I can talk about with government sector about tomorrow. I don't think it would be of any benefit to Indiana Packers Corporation, just because, they'd be right for that lift station on State Road 39, goes to 21, which has a force main that goes straight to the wastewater treatment plant. So any additional mains down to 100, unless they plan on building recycled production out there in the future, you don't want to run through that property. I wouldn't see a ton of benefit for them. Now, good if we have, other industries that come in the future and can use that.
Yeah.
That seems odd they would go south with everything, because everything currently on the north side.
Maybe that's the reason why. They've got to keep the sewer at least away from any water mains when they're running parallel, so that could be why they want to put it on the south side. I don't know a ton about their infrastructure plans. I'll think about it.
percent?
Yeah, the front.